All right, so today we're going to be going over the install on our front control arms. They are a full chromoly bar with the 3/4 inch chromoly heim joints on each end. The main advantage of these is in a race application, you're able to get rid of all of the rubber bushings in your control arms, and you're able to get the axle located a lot better and have a lot better control over the caster. Then you also have some adjustment in the bar to where you can adjust the caster on the truck easily, depending on what you need to do. If you're having some issues with death wobble or something like that, adjusting the caster can help with that sometimes. So the install is fairly straightforward. It comes with spacers to use all of your factory hardware. There's different size spacers for the lower bars than the uppers. The upper bolts are a little bit smaller than the lowers. The install is fairly basic, assuming that you don't have seized bolts. It does seem to be pretty common, especially on the cam bolts, for those to seize up, and those can be a little bit difficult sometimes, and sometimes you need to get a torch or an air chisel involved with that. But once the bars are installed, the main thing to do is to make sure that you have your measurements, have these ends adjusted correctly to where it matches the factory length of the factory bars, unless you want to adjust the caster. So one of the most important things is, once you get the length of your bars set, is to make sure that you get all of the jam nuts tight. That keeps from beating the threads out of the heim joint, so make your bar last a lot longer.
Today we're doing a heim joint setup, control arm change on an 07 truck. Going from factory control arms to a heim joint setup. So stick with us. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go over to our new heim joint setup. We're going to measure from the center bolt hole, and then adjust our new heim joint setup to match this arm, and then put it back in. So on this, before we took it apart, we marked where the cam bolt was. So what I want to do now is, before I tighten everything back up, I want to put it back in line and then tighten everything back up. Make sure after you get your final measurement from your center of bolt hole to center of bolt hole, you tighten your jam nuts down, that way it don't back off. Now for the lower control arms, if you look, the inside is a little bit bigger for the lowers. So just make sure whenever you're putting your kit together that you pay attention to that. If not, you'll have a lot of slack in it, and you will never get a proper alignment. All right, guys, so we got this side done. Before we move on to the next side, I want to stress to you guys how important it is to make sure that you guys tighten these jam nuts. If not, the vibration will cause the threads to strip out, and then you'll be doing it again. So make sure you tighten those. So on these trucks, the cam bolt seizes up in the bushing a lot of times. So a lot of times, like for instance, we had to come in with a sawzall and cut behind here, cut the bolt out, and over on this side to cut it out. So make sure you guys keep 2 cam bolts with you whenever you do the kit, just to make sure, because sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. So just make sure you have 2 extra just in case you do need them. So whenever we took this cam bolt out here, we noticed that it wallowed out the hole a little bit. So if you look here, we had to come in here and shave down our spacers a little bit and add a washer to it to give it more of a bite, because it would eventually start pushing through the hole. And then on this side over here, if you look, we had to disconnect the down pipe from the back of the turbo to be able to reach this bolt here to be able to get it out, so we can change the upper arm.